What's going on, y'all? We're back with another episode of the Millionaire Podcast. We're gonna call this version Todd Talk. We're here on an early Saturday morning with the brother real estate coach Carter. How you been doing, brother?
I've been going well, man. Operating in a turbulent market, but I'm still here, still feeling great.
Um, you're located in Philly, right?
Yep, still in Philly. Yep, West Philly.
And your main business is real estate investing.
That is the only business really right now, real estate investing. Everything else is just investing.
How has that been going for you now in the market of Philly?
I know how to invest, so it's never a bad market when you know how to buy. It's just been a little slower because I had to do more due diligence. Like the cost of labor here has really gotten outrageous. So you have and also the cost of the real estate has went up a lot. So you have to get used to smaller margins than I'm used to. But it's the game. So yeah, I'm still going. That's all I know how to do.
So can you tell people how you got started in this space?
All right. It's a long story how I got started, but really my dad was an investor. My grandfather had properties. My great uncle had properties. Like we still have our land from right after the Civil War, and so ownership has been in the bloodline. And so my dad had rentals. I just really followed in his footsteps, really as far as buying rentals, and then I tried to flip a couple, and that didn't go well, but I never stopped. And then sometimes the flips started to work, and I just never stopped. I like rentals better until this year. I like flips better. Only in this market though. Only in Philly because Philly, the politics are got tougher here in this city, so it's harder.
Got got tougher in terms of what?
It got tougher in terms of legislation. I mean, Philly, politicians. So the problem is, right, we do have some bad actors when it comes to being landlords, and they do treat tenants poorly. A lot of times, a lot of cases, tenants get the short end of the stick. But instead of punishing those bad landlords, they pretty much take it out on the entire industry, and they make landlording very tough. I'll give you for instance, right? I don't like doing evictions, but it's part of the game, right? I had to do an eviction, and they put these COVID era protections in, right? And so since COVID happened, they had basically you had to go to tenant aversion court, meaning like they didn't want landlords kicking anybody out because people didn't have a job or just trying to get more money, kind of price gouging. So they added in you have to go to tenant aversion court before you can go to eviction court. Sometimes tenant aversion court might take you 2 3 months to get in there just to not come up with an agreement and then have to evict after the fact. And this last eviction that I did took just under 9 months to get the tenant out of the property. Where prior to in Philly, a long time would have been 3 months. And so now at 9 months, and I'm looking at it like, okay, it took me 9 months to get this person out. On this property in particular, I have a mortgage on. Not all my properties got mortgages, but this one have a mortgage on it. So I got 9 months not receiving money, 9 months of paying the mortgage. The person left me with a $4,000 water bill. Um, and I had to turn the unit over, and I'm still waiting for a tenant. And so once you add up all of those numbers, it's about 3 years profit than a drain. And so I'm like, why am I going to be in this business if in this way, if it's going to eat up 3 years of profit every time? Because the unit wasn't even bad. It was just, it was just the cost of turning it over. And I'm like, I can't afford to give up 3 years of profit every time somebody doesn't want to pay. And so now a lot of small landlords are leaving Philly. A lot of small landlords, or if you're like me and I used to take pride in providing quality, affordable housing. Now the risk reward isn't there. Like I would house people with bad credit, right? because it's like, all right, you got. I look at why do you have bad credit? Have eviction, bankruptcies? No, I wouldn't house you. But if you had like, late student loans or something, something from 3 or 4 years ago, I can tolerate that. And so if you had like a 580, 550, I will take a chance on you. Now it is not worth taking a chance because if you get stuck, you're stuck. And so I can't do affordable housing anymore. If I'm in Philly, I can't do affordable housing. I have to go a little higher to higher end housing to stay in Philadelphia, in my
So
opinion.
it sounds like they turned you into a Republican.
so I have the one of our biggest problems, though, I think, because of our city council, is none of them have any business experience, and some of them have had foreclosures. A bunch of them are renters, and so I don't think they realize even the toll of a payroll tax. So I can't say I'm turning to Republican, but I'm definitely understanding more about business. So
And it's important for your politicians to understand business as well, since the laws they're making impact business and real estate investment and the stock market.
yeah, but the thing is, like what I always say, a lot of times these are like the best jobs they ever had, and a lot of the voters here are like older, lower income people, and since those are the voters, those are people that are going to get the attention, and they want to keep the best job they ever had, and so they have to,
It's
they have
crazy
to
when
do
you
what they
put
got
it
to
like
do.
it's crazy when you put it like that because I always look at like the current state of like Congress. You have these old people in there who are just there, and they don't necessarily represent the interest of the younger generation. Um, and I think that's part of the reason why we have a lot of policies that are creating younger people from being able to buy homes, younger people from able to do a lot of different things. I think marriage in itself, like a lot of young people aren't getting married anymore, but we have these old politicians still making all the laws, still running Congress, and then you have old people being elected into the executive office. So I think a lot of that goes hand in hand. It's like the background of who you're electing impacts the people. We probably do need a younger governing body in America. It's not Jasmine Crockett. What's your thoughts on Jasmine Crockett?
So I like her
No,
fight. I like
yeah,
I like her fight. I like a lot of what she represents. Um, I think she's, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, right? And so I think that she is the polar opposite to a Marjorie Taylor Greene, right? I think they are the same person essentially, just on opposite sides, But she does fight. I don't think that she'll ever be respected, at the highest levels. But a lot of times, she's loud, she's brass, but you need that. A lot of times you need that, but when other folk do, when they're yelling, they don't really get the same pushback. When they're yelling in Congress and stuff is going on, they banging at desks, they don't really get the same negative reaction. But I like a lot of I like her fight more than anything else.
so you've been talking a lot about politics.
A
Most
lot, yes.
I brought you on here because I've been reading a lot of your posts. The first post that really stood out to me, that isn't even a political post, was your post about kids moving out at 18.
Mhm.
You said you had a new insight on that. Can you talk about that?
No, so I was just talking. My son get on my son be getting on my nerves lately. He just turned 13 and he be getting on my nerves. And it's like, bro, like, yo, you got to get up out of here. But no, I definitely understand. Like, kids, you should give your kids a leg. I don't want him to move out of here broke. I'm not saying that, But for my sanity, I'm like, bro, you gotta give me a break. Like, I look forward. He goes to overnight camp for a month every year. This year he's aging out, so he's only going to go for 2 weeks. And but for those 2 weeks, like I need that break. Like I said, he's 5. In a couple of more years, when he start giving you attitude and pushing back, you like, Yeah, he's definitely he gonna start feeling himself. You know, girls gonna start liking him, and you know he gonna think he cute. You know, he gonna have a Tesla probably. You know what I'm saying? We're going to high school. You know, so it's like nah, bro. Like he's definitely feeling himself. And to my son, like, yo, I didn't do anything to you. You got to you giving me attitude early in the morning. I'm like, man, I don't have. You know, my goal isn't to be upset with you all day, yelling at you all day. It ain't it. So like, I need a break.
I think that is a different thing though. Like it's like throwing putting your kids out at 18 and throwing your kids out at 18, a little bit different. It's like if you're still there supporting them. I don't even think people were so like with that whole like kicking your kids out at 18 thing. I don't think it's so much getting out the house at 18 because that was fun. I went to college at 18, so I was out of the
Right.
house. It was the best time of my life. But it's just like still supporting them past 18 that is the issue.
Well,
And so,
well, I think so. My post was when he's 18, he's going to be on somebody's campus or aircraft carrier. And I was like, listen, but so I used to work in public housing, right? Right. I worked for the housing authority. I used to manage projects, right? Before I was full time. I got out of real estate in 2008. I lost everything in 2008, right? I went through the Great Recession. I had a mortgage company. I lost my business. I went through foreclosures. I lost everything. I moved back home with my parents. Like I was doing bad around that time period. But really that took me a lot, like as far as working. But when I left there, I went to the housing authority. I got a full-time job at the housing authority. It took me like almost a year to get a job. And so, but at the housing authority, I got an opportunity. I managed 500 units. Um, and I got an opportunity to meet a lot of people along the way. And what I saw were women, they were raising grown little boys, like boys that are 22, 23 years old, still living at home. And every 2 years, I got to do a recertification. And what's entailed in the recertification is I have to go through their income to determine what their rent is going to be for the next 2 years. And the sons would come in at 22, 23 years old and having never had a job and having never have any working experience. And so they were either some of them were in the street, like some of them might have sold dope, might have sold weed, some of them might have been stick up, but a lot of them did nothing. They legit just were leeching off of their mom, who's living on the system. And so that I can never raise a grown little boy.
yeah,
And so
I don't
yeah,
think I
and
don't
so
think a man can raise a grown little boy because a man knows what it is to be a man. There's certain things about manhood that women could never even imagine because they never had to live that life. And so it's like in a certain respects, they're kind of I don't know why it happens, but it's like you need a man to come in there and be like, nah, get up, handle your business, wake up, let's get it done, get them grades in order, do stuff you don't want to do stuff that's hard. Because it's like you never had to do anything that's hard. Everybody was giving you stuff. You don't even know what it feels like to have to persevere and push through some things and do some things you don't want to do and work a job you don't want to work long hours, work weekends, sacrifice. And
right, all
so it's
that.
funny that you say that because I could see that being true for sure.
Yeah, I mean, so when I was like, so my dad was always in my life, right? But my parents split. They both still live in West Philly. I lived with my mom for a while, and I got two brothers. And my mom did work a 9 to 5, and then like 2, 3 days a week, she worked 11 to 7, like overnight at the police station. And so, like to see that kind of work ethic, but we weren't the best kids. We were at least decent, right? Nobody was shooting at us, and not to college at least, And so we were decent. But I can see how a single mom working two jobs, like the house, no matter how much you try, the house really could get out of control. Because how would she ever know? How would she
Yeah.
ever know what we're really doing if, like I said, 9 to 5, come home, take a nap, and go back to work from 11 to 7?
Mm-hmm.
And then at the 7 o'clock, I'm gonna shower up and go back to your 9 to 5. How? So, like I said, it could have went either way. But like I said, my dad was still in my life. He only lived a mile and a half away, but I had the benefit of going back and forth. Like if I was in trouble at my mom's house, I moved with my dad. I was in trouble over there, I would move with my mom. You know what I'm saying? And so we would talk all the time, came to see me, I came to see him. But so the presence was still there. But like I said, it could easily went the opposite
I
way.
would I would say though that I think that part of what was raising those kids into being grown little boys was the fact that their moms weren't being productive. Because my parents were divorced, but my mom was very productive, and so I was very productive. And so it's like you have somebody who their mom is living off the system, probably ain't doing much, probably
Right.
waking up watching TV. And so what is that kid gonna want to do? That's what their parents are doing. I found
Exactly.
in parenting that kids get excited about the things that you get excited about, and their reality is your reality. So if you enjoy reading books and doing math, they're gonna enjoy reading books and doing math for the most part. If you're
Yeah.
excited about helping them do their homework, they're gonna get the homework done for the most part. And
Yeah,
so
nah,
like
nah,
it all comes
that's
down to
true.
the parents.
Yeah, nah, exactly, man. So, and that's what we on. And so that's what it was, like I said. So no, am I gonna kick him out in the street when he turned 18? No. But I promise you, he's gonna be on somebody's college campus. If I get him graduate early, he'll be there early.
Yeah.
Because
I was just giving you some flack, man. I was giving you some
no,
flack.
and listen, one thing, listen, the kid is everybody, think the kid is smart. The kid is smart. Problem is a lot of times he thinks he's smarter than everybody else. And I'm like, yo, but like listen, nobody likes to know it all. Nobody likes to know it all, man. You could be smart, but you don't have to try to prove you're smart to everybody all the time, man. But either ways, and then a day, now I got a little time today. We were supposed to be taking the golf at 11:30, but he on punishment today, so ain't no golf today for him.
How long have you been golfing?
Just last summer he just started, and the youngest too started last summer. That's where I came this morning. We had a 8 a.m. golf practice with my 6 year old today at
How do
8
they
a.m.
like it?
every Saturday 8. He love it. He love it. He love it. The oldest loves golf. Youngest one really likes it. The oldest one loves golf.
How do you play?
I got to learn now. They want to play, so I'm
Yeah,
now I'm learning with them.
you gotta learn. You gotta learn.
Yeah, learning
Speaking
with
of
them,
golf,
man.
follow Equity and Irons, uh, the black golf page, man. We're gonna be killing it, putting more content out there. I did want to get into your post slash your tweets. You had a post and you're talking about business credit. It said, y'all ought to be ashamed of yourselves, still selling business credit to people that don't know any better in this climate. The 10-year is damn near 5%, and this trade war is sinking the economy. That business model is predatory in the first place. Can you talk about that?
So I know it took me a long time to do a post criticizing the practice of people selling business credit. And because I do actually have some friends that sell business credit, I know at least 3 people, probably 4 people that became millionaires from selling business credit. And what I tell people is like this: it's easy to sell money, especially to sell money that somebody never had it before, right? And if you tell somebody like, yeah, no, you don't have to have a business. I got you create an LLC, and as soon as you create the LLC, I can help you get 50 to 100,000, right? And which is real. Like, okay, I'm gonna go to sure they just know the lenders that will allow you credit with the new LLC, but they charging like 15% to get that car. So if a person get 100K and business credit before they even see the card, they pay these people. People say they've got to pay these people $15,000. So you're paying interest off of 100, even though you only got 85. And business credit is not cheap. You're probably paying 20, 22, 23% on top of the 15,000 you didn't get. So now
And they
you
want
pay,
that money every month.
and they
They
want
want
that
that money
money
every month.
every month. And so now, okay, even if you didn't spend the 85, you're still paying interest in the 15, but you're still like 33% interest damn near. You're paying almost 40%, like depending on the credit card and when it goes up or whatever. I'm like, bro, how are you? It's impossible. It makes absolutely no sense to have these people paying 30 something. And people thought about that. They like, man, I never had $85,000. And then what do? They don't realize those are PG, those are personal guarantee. Ain't no, ain't no fix your credit. No, they're taking you to court. They're taking you to court. They're getting judgments against you personally for that money. Now you don't have a business and you got to pay $15,000 back that you didn't just because somebody told you where to go apply for a card. That is insane, right? And then you don't have a business, so you're gonna spend the money and got no way to pay it back. Or we're going to buy some Turo cars, get an Airbnb in this market. No, like, and so people, they don't have a business and they taking that, and then they also not even realizing that those rates are adjustable. It's like, so no, I think the business model is selfish predatory. And I tell people all the time how I got business credit. One, I have a business. Two, I applied for it and they gave it to me. I didn't have to pay nobody no money to get my business credit. I went to Amex. Amex say, oh, you got a business? It's a PG. Your credit score is solid. You make that much money. Okay, no problem. Here's this money. Matter of fact, here's this card, and we'll give you 2 more if you want it. Right? When I went to PNC Bank, I said, hey, I have a business. All right. I went there. The banker said, do you need any business credit? I said, you know what? I think I will need business credit. So they gave me a 50K line of credit on a 50K line of credit and a 25K credit card. I didn't have to pay anybody any money to get that. Have decent credit and have a business, and you'll get business credit. Why are you paying like $15,000 to do application for you? It makes no sense. So the entire business model is predatory. And like I said, I do got friends selling it, so it was a long time before I would really say anything negative about it, because I have, but either way, I just, it's a predatory business practice. And a lot of times, like, I think Black people are the most predatory against Black people, and it's not necessarily because they want to be predatory against Black people. Is really because they learn from predators. They see predators doing it, and they're like, "Oh, they do it, so it must be okay," and don't realize that no, it's actually predatory. But that's my opinion on that matter.
So I think that, well, I feel like the business credit is an interesting conversation, because I kind of spotted it when I saw it, and I fell into the business credit kind of rabbit hole and had a bunch of business credit cards and had to chunk them all out, because the crazy part about it is 100K in funding is also potentially 100K in debt. And so 100K in debt, and they want that interest, even if you're putting it towards something that is positive, putting it into a property, putting it into whatever, putting it into something that's tangible that can be sold at a later time. There might be some delays, there might be some low cash flow once you get there. And now what you thought was going to be good could be getting eaten up by that 23% interest. Well, you could have got that financing for way cheaper somewhere else. With somebody who's willing to negotiate with you, not with these credit card companies who are ruthless. So it's like you also have like the predator working for the predator, because credit card companies are not your friend. Like you said,
they're not your friend.
They're not. It's a PG, and they're coming to sue you. And so I'm always curious. We always see people talk about getting funding. I want to see the success stories from said funding. I've never seen that, but I also want to see if the funding didn't work out for somebody. We never really see that stuff. We see 50K in funding, but we never see
what happened with that funding?
Behind the music, business credit.
but here's the thing, man. You said funding. Using the word funding is itself is just a rebrand. They use the word funding because they don't want to say here. Let me give you 100K in debt. You want that? You want 100? You want 100K? They said they use the word funding. That's what it is. So it's just debt. like I said, and to take business credit with no real business is insane. Like I will say I could hurt myself in the ways because I'm really more of a bootstrapper. I understand that people do, raise capital for stuff, and they put together projects. I'd rather bootstrap at my own peril. I understand that I could do bigger projects and further along if I did raise capital, but I'd rather bootstrap. I'd rather work where I don't need to raise capital, even if I can't do the 100-unit building or whatever. Let me stick my 5-unit, 6-unit. Let me just work what I can work without having to raise capital.
I gotta pause on this 1 second. I have a landscaper here who I need to let in. I need to put the dog up. Give me 1 second. I'll be putting stuff into these days.
All right, good.
All right, we lost real estate coach Carter.
All right, you got the landscaper living a good life.
For some reason, I can't see. Oh, there it is. There it is. Yeah, man. Home maintenance. That's something that I'm learning a lot about.
Yeah.
I,
No,
I learned. I learned that sometimes the things you want to get to maintain your home can't come from Home Depot. Like
it is a
you got to go to the
home.
specialty store sometimes.
Yeah, no, listen. So a lot of people talk about home ownership and the cost of home ownership, and people talk about, but I think the people, once again, like not buying right. For instance, like this house I'm in right now. Maybe 10 years ago, I paid 140, 140 for this property, and my neighbor just sold hers for 550 2 months ago. And so it's like you kind of just got to buy right. You just kind of buy right, know what you're doing.
But how long have you lived in that house?
Now, I've seen about 10 years. 10 years.
Yeah. I 100% agree with buying right, especially if you're buying retail. Like if you're buying a home to live in for your family. That's one of the things that I strongly believe in. And there's been a lot of talk about people hating they bought a house and they're like, oh man, this is the worst thing I ever did. And like a lot of people talking down home ownership these days in terms of like so that they can rent a luxury sky rise and a high rise.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is so, as a realtor, what you see is if a person is pre-approved for $500,000, they send me houses for 600, 700. Like they want to spend as much as they possibly can. And the term starter house is absent from the vernacular. Starter houses no longer exist. Like everybody, their first house, it has to be their dream house. And I'm telling people, just don't. That's a sucker move. Don't do it. Live way within your means. And even getting this property, but I did my wife, we got approved for it with just her income. Like anywhere we live, we're not going to combine both of our incomes to see what we approve for. If we can't afford it on just one income, then we just can't afford it. And really, I like to use her income because her income is stable. She's W-2, and so if we live there, it's going to be based off of getting approved off of just her income. If it's both of our income, then we can afford it. That's my opinion, though.
That's interesting. It's interesting because I think sometimes when we hear commentary on the internet, we don't really realize who's commenting. And so it's like for somebody to say home ownership is bad, it's like, well, what was your goal with home ownership? Was your goal to buy the house you couldn't afford, or was your goal to be comfortable in a house that you could more than afford? Is your goal to have the house in the prime area at the prime time? Or is your goal just to buy a house in the area that's up and coming? Like for us in California, if you're trying to buy a house and you're looking for the hot spots, you'll never buy a house. You'll be renting forever. But if you have foresight and you realize what's coming, you can buy a house that's going to be a hot spot. And that's what you really have to do. So for example, like where we live, we are south of a very, very hot spot. And then we're north of a very, very hot spot. We're in the center. But what happens? The hot spots converge. And so we moved, and all they've been doing is building. All they've been doing is adding. All they've been doing is improving. And so we paid $550. Homes are selling for like $8 right now. We've been in for 5 years. So it's like, this is going to be $1 million house soon. But the cool thing is, if you want to be near the hot spots, you've got to have some patience as well. Because now we're getting to the point where we don't have to go anywhere. Everything's right around us. We got all the new restaurants, all the new amenities. They're improving the golf courses. And so, like, home ownership for me was never questionable. It was never like, oh, I could rent. It's like, no, I'm never going to be a long-term renter ever in my life. I rented for the time that I had to, but I wanted to own a home way before I owned a home. Understanding that it does come with maintenance, and that's okay because the mortgage has been stable. Been paying the same amount of money for 5 years, gonna ideally pay the same amount of money for the next 5 years, 15 years, 20 years. But the goal really is to chunk this mortgage out in the next 5 years because my income has substantially increased from the point when we moved in here until now. And so in the next 5 years, the income is going to continue to increase. And so all the extra money that I'm making and other things is going to chunk down the mortgage. Can't do that with rent though. You can't chunk down your rent. They're going to be renting forever. They're going to be increasing that rent forever. And I thought that was a very well understood concept. And then TikTok came along. And TikTok is just like, I think that the reason why they wanted to ban it is because a whole lot of misinformation going around in TikTok. And I wouldn't even say misinformation, it's just terrible opinion.
Nah, that's not it. That's not it. The reason why all of a sudden they want to ban TikTok is because the people on TikTok were heavily sympathetic of Palestine. When that happened, all of a sudden TikTok became a threat, right? Because the people, the government or they can't control. They can control what happens on our social media and the algorithm with Facebook and Twitter. They can't control TikTok or the opinion of people. And so that's when TikTok became a threat. You did not see anybody talking about banning TikTok until after what happened in Palestine. That's what happened. Think about it. Like look at the timeline. Joe Biden didn't say nobody said nothing about TikTok until
Trump did. Trump was always on TikTok today. He was the first person who even brought up banning TikTok.
Banning TikTok?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Because
then Biden hopped on it. You know, a lot of these politicians, Democrat or Republican, they just repeat the same opinions of the last guy.
a lot of times they do. A lot of times
And then people
they
hate it when
don't
one
have their
person
own.
says and they love it when another person says it.
Yeah,
When
that's
Obama
true.
was cracking down on immigration, everybody was happy. Trump comes in and now he's racist for cracking down on immigration.
Well, I think it's how he's cracking down on immigration. Because last time he cracked down on immigration also, but you didn't see, where Trump was like, okay, we're going to go after the criminals. And in my opinion, the biggest benefactor of Trump cracking down on the immigrants is the gangs in Chicago, because those Venezuelans, they giving them gangs in Chicago run for their money. Like they giving them, like, they going at it in Chicago. So those are like the biggest benefactors. But when you're raiding like the fish market in New Jersey, like when you're going into the meat packing factories, you're going to you're going at hard working people. You're not going at the gang members. One, and then two, with Trump, I think that just disappearing people to a different country. I mean, we were even though we send people to Guantanamo Bay all the time, it's still really considered a U.S. territory. It's a U.S. run facility in Cuba. But to just turn these people over to a foreign government, I think it's insane. Honestly, I really do. I'm a little afraid right now. I'm not even gonna lie to you that where as much as I criticize America, I like living in America. And I think that what's happening right now is going away from the principles that our country was built on.
Hmm.
And it's a scary moment. It's scary when our country was built on free speech, right? But when people are now being attacked for their speech and for their opinion, and not just attacked like, you know, going against them in a way, like people are being arrested for their speech. People are being kicked out of school for their speech. People
Losing
are
jobs.
going on people are going on vacation and not being able to come back because of their speech. People, green card holders, you know, legal permanent residence is not it's it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable. Uncomfortable is making me nervous, especially it's really weird that you could criticize America, you could criticize Trump, you could criticize Obama, you could criticize the media. It's only one thing you can't criticize. And if you criticize that one thing, you're putting your whole livelihood on the line. That's what tell you who really is in control. Especially when, I mean, here's the thing. It doesn't matter if I don't think that anybody should identify with any political party. I think that it creates a zero sum game, and it creates a situation where, I got to win, you got to lose. And that really shouldn't be the case. As Americans, we should want what's best for America. And as an American, I don't think that having half of Congress being a citizen of a foreign country is good for America. Like, if
Hmm.
you look at how many people are actually dual citizens
Oh
with
yeah.
Israel,
Oh yeah.
is insane. I don't think that cannot be healthy for a country. And no, there's no way possible that that's
Yeah.
healthy for a country. And even though I can like even though I've always been a critic of Trump, I when he was, I used to watch The Apprentice. Cool. You could be a entertainer, and I had criticisms for him at 45. But I think what we're witnessing right now at 47 is a whole different president than 45. Like what's happening right now has never happened again. And I think that right now we're kind of at a crossroads where you either love America or you love Trump. At this point, it's my opinion, right? and I say that really strongly because if you believe in America, right? If you believe in the Constitution, if you believe in three separate but equal parts of government, if you believe in checks and balances, then there's no way that you can support Trump. Cannot, because he's eroding everything the country was built on. And so now he there is no rule of law right now. He does whatever he wants to do, and there's nobody that can stop him. Right? And
There are people that can stop him.
Who?
Well, the thing is the system has checks and balances, but there's also, because the voters have put things in place because they were tired of the way that things were going. Not only did he win the presidency, they also won the House. They also won the Senate.
Mm-hmm.
And so that doesn't mean that America is failing. That just means that America is American. If Democrats would have done what they're supposed to do, which there was
no,
backlash.
No. If the Republicans have done what they were supposed to do, and like, yo, hold on, we believe in the country, and what you're doing is illegal, but because you're doing it and we like you and we're scared because you have the richest person in the world, they're afraid of being attacked and come up with a nickname, right? They don't want to be too late or sleepy or whatever it is. And once again, this is the best job they ever had. They cannot lose it. And if they go against the machine, they go against it.
The problem is they do go against the machine. They just don't have the numbers, and so that's why.
No, I'm talking about. Listen. Okay, let me ask you this though. Do you think that 80%, even 80% of Republicans in Congress believe that removing people from the country for their speech, sending people to El Salvador prisons, do you believe that, or taking over Gaza and turn it into a resort? Do you think that 80% of Republicans believe that that any of those things are acceptable? Or 100%? You think 100% of Republicans think that that's okay?
I don't know. I don't think that people are being removed for their speech. Where is this coming from? Where is this coming from? Where is this attack on free speech that you mentioned?
All right, because I forget my man. So they just removed a man from Colombia. I forget his name. They just a green card holder, right? ICE came and got him from Colombia. There was the doctor, the kidney doctor. I think it's a kidney doctor from Dartmouth. There was, and they just arrested somebody else just recently, like even a couple of days ago. A man, he was a Palestinian dude. He was a Palestinian, and I took him into custody. These are green card holders, and I could tell you their names, but I'll send you names after the fact. But these are three separate people who their only crime, they're calling them terrorists because they had the audacity to speak out against the atrocities in Palestine, and they were removed. The ICE has them in custody somewhere, and they're going to be removed for their speech, not because they committed a crime. They're calling them terrorists because they had audacity to speak out. I'm saying, and so my thing is, regardless of everything that's happening, and there's no way that 100% of Republicans think that what Doge is doing is proper, but 0% speak out. There's not one Republican that said, "Hey, man, maybe you shouldn't have these 19-year-olds with no security clearances have access to all of this data." Right? Maybe we don't know what the hell they're doing. What programs are they installing into these systems? They have no idea what they're doing. They have no. One guy was already with the dude, big balls, whatever. he was already fired from a job for potentially selling their insider trading, their job secrets, and he was hired back on, right? And so there's, you could say the Democrats and they lost. I get it, but there's no way that all the Republicans, all of them, cannot think that this is okay. But not one of them says, "Hold on, man. Maybe we should vet these people." They have no idea who they are. They don't know if they're citizens. They don't know what country they're from. They
I'm
don't know
pretty
their
sure.
skill
I'm
level.
pretty sure it's not that just haphazard over there. I'm
No,
pretty sure
they
this.
don't know. They don't know who they are, bro. They
I
don't know
don't.
who they are.
I don't believe that, Coach Carter. I don't believe that. I
But
will
so
say. I
you think
I
that they've
will
been vetted?
say. I will say that the idea of government efficiency isn't a Trump idea. That's a Biden. That's an Obama idea. He himself. A lot. That's what I'm saying. Like a lot of these. One person says it, we love it. Another person says it, we hate it. And that's what American politics is, because you have a media company that's going to put a spin on it. They're going to tell you how bad this person's idea is. And then another person's going to be like, this is so innovative. And then the Republicans are going to try to stop Obama's mission. And then they're going to go adopt his mission.
Right.
And
And so
so
I'm gonna say this, right? So now, as a realist, right, I do understand that we got to figure out um we have to figure out how to cut the budget down, right? The budget is out of control, but we have ways and means. We have people that were elected, right? We have you're gonna say like the only way to do it is what Elon says, and Elon to me is a terrible person, and I never like Elon, right? But I will say this: how I know he's a terrible person, because you cannot be a good person and don't take care of your children. Impossible. Impossible. We don't even know about 14. Who knows how many of there are? But if you don't take care of your kids, you can't be a good man. You can't do it. Impossible. Right? And so, regardless of what I feel about it, that's how it is. But yeah, so no, I agree. I agree. There is a lot of waste and a lot of fraud going on in DC, but it's not DC. A lot of waste and fraud is because everybody, Democrats and Republican, put pork in the bills. Everything that passed, we need money for this specialty project over here. We need money for this. So yes, there is fraud, waste, and abuse in Congress. Now, it is wrong, right? But if Congress has the power, if Congress, that's a wild take.
I said that too. That I feel like, why wouldn't you want the richest person in the country helping run the country instead of having these people who don't have anything and have a vested interest in taking advantage of the country running the country?
Because he's rich.
No, because he's successful. Not because he's rich, because he's successful, because he built Tesla. He might not have started Tesla, but he built Tesla. Mm-hmm. He's managed to grow SpaceX. He's done a lot of really cool things. And
that's true.
His mind is what we need, not necessarily his resources.
You think he's intelligent?
I think so. I think, and I wouldn't say he's not a rocket scientist, but he's smart and he knows the value of hiring rocket scientists or hiring smart people.
That's a fact. I agree with that mission. I agree with that. He's really good at hiring people, but he is that pork that were in the bills, right? Tesla would have failed without government intervention. SpaceX would have failed without government intervention.
But they're both needed. That's the thing.
Tesla's
not needed. That's why China's
needed.
beating us. Tesla is absolutely needed. The whole Tesla has every single car now is electric. Every car company has an electric car.
We don't need Tesla for that.
But it got done, and Tesla is one of the best electric cars out there. You see Teslas everywhere you go.
It's the best one in America. I agree.
China's stealing our tech. China's stealing our tech. But
Listen,
one of the reasons why China beats America so much is because the government does have a hand in everything. And so, like,
yeah,
I've even
I agree.
questioned,
I agree.
like,
I agree. I agree. But what's the difference? China funded BYD, right? And they fund everything else, but we fund everything. What's the difference? We fund Tesla, we fund SpaceX, we fund everything.
I don't think we fund a lot of innovation in America. I don't think we put a lot of resources behind American business like they do.
I'm gonna disagree with you on that because
We
all
put
the
money
VC,
behind existing businesses. One
no
of the
no no
downsides about
no no.
America is that we have stifled innovation by trying to protect industries that still exist. And so
I'm
that's
gonna
what we're getting beat by these countries, Asian
right,
countries
but
that are willing to
I'm
put money into
I'm gonna
innovation.
disagree. I'm gonna disagree with that. And the reason why I disagree is because all of the hedge funds, right, all of the VC companies, they have access to our pension funds. That's where the money comes from to invest in those companies. It's just how is it done, right?
Mhm.
If me and you, right, weren't putting money into our 401ks, and people have the pensions, and they invest our money. It's just who gets the money. The government does not get our money directly, but our public funds are being used to fund every startup, every last one. Like, of course, they might have some angel money, but when they get to their funding rounds and they go to the hedge funds and VCs, that money comes from us. That comes from American citizens, right? And so I understand, but it's just not the U.S. isn't the one cutting that check. But over there, yes, China, they are the ones cutting that check, And so I'm not going to say that. So one thing I will say is,
I can't have that up there. You can't be taking shots at my boy. I'll let you
um,
read
okay, he can say that. I ain't mad at that. So, but listen, I don't want to harp on Elon, but I will say he is of course he's a smart person. I don't think that he's the best for he's the I don't think he's the best person to take on this task. That's all I'm saying. I don't think they're the best person for this task.
I'm okay with that thought as long as we entertain the idea of doing things like that.
So,
And I'm not talking about like CEO, like Jamie Dimon. I don't really I want somebody who's innovated something, somebody who's built something, somebody who's had to think creatively, not somebody who's just a figurehead and was placed like Tim Cook. Like,
well, how come you didn't vote with Andrew Yang?
I'd rather Steve Jobs than Tim Cook. But what were you gonna say?
I said, but nobody voted for Andrew Yang when he ran for president. Andrew Yang was the right choice when he ran for president. He was the right choice. He was the only one at the time talking about innovation. He's the only one talking about artificial intelligence. He's the only one talking about a job tsunami. Nobody voted for Andrew Yang.
That's a Democrat problem. Wasn't he running? He didn't make it out of the primary.
He did not. He didn't. He got like 1% of the vote. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. But I don't think it was really a Democrat problem. I think it's an American problem. He couldn't raise capital, right? And the only way to win an election in this country is to have $2 billion, and thanks to Citizens United. And so, yeah, that was. If you can't raise money, you can't get your message out. And that's the tough part. Is that Trump was able to do it because Trump is a magnificent marketer. I mean, that dude is incredible when it comes to marketing. I'll say
Mm-hmm.
that. I mean, when it comes to
But the thing is he also ran an efficient campaign.
very efficient.
So he
Because the
wasn't
thing
just
is,
he
you
got
don't have
outspent. He's been outspent every election he's run.
right. But here's the thing: you don't have to spend money when the media is covering you every day because you're saying weird shit. I mean, I'm sorry, I mean cursing your pod, but yeah, if you're saying weird stuff all the time, the media's going to cover you every day, so you
And
don't have to buy ads.
that's the intelligence that comes when you've built something versus when you've been placed somewhere.
Yeah. So, like I said, but everything with Trump, what I don't want to do, honestly, I don't want to criticize Trump 45 because that was 45. It is what it is. I'm just saying 47 is a different president and is a different time in the country. And I do 100% agree that China hasn't. been playing fair but if you think that China hasn't been playing fair to the US, but China's obligation is not to the US. China's obligation is to Chinese citizens.
And the U.S. obligation is to the U.S., and so that's what we
Right,
got
and
to
right,
protect
100
against
right.
China.
But what the US have been doing is they allow the businesses to offshore for decades, and they saw it coming. But as long as the corporate profits came in, it wasn't a problem. But now when you see how far behind that we actually are, and if people travel, then you will see like, oh no, like technology wise, like we kind of behind. Our infrastructure, bro, our bridges are falling. We have falling bridges. Like, how can we be the number one economy in the world with our infrastructures is bad? And then also we make it a point to alienate the people that can help contribute to the country, right? It's like, no matter how they feel about Black people, no matter how they feel about Latinos that are here, that are citizens, we're here. China is investing in their education. We are attacking our colleges. And then you got all these, you got what I really dislike is all these, Black people like, oh, college is a scam, all that. I can't stand that narrative.
Yeah.
But a lot of times they saying it is because they take on $250,000 in debt, and when they come out, they at the post office because nobody will hire them, right? And so, yeah, I understand. I disagree with the narrative, but I really do understand it. And so, if you have people that are eligible, that are qualified for a job, but then you call everybody, a DEI hire, like it's like, yo, you think Colin Powell, somebody like that, is a DEI hire? Like, you have, it's just that just by their skin color, they can't be qualified. And I think that by alienating a lot of qualified people, where you don't even want to the point where you don't go to an event to recruit Black engineers, I think it's insane, right? Because as a country, we need help with our infrastructure. We need help with our technology. We need help with everything. And there are people that can help, but because they're DEI, you don't want to contribute to that. Like I said,
Well,
every
that's
other country.
honestly, I agree with that take, and that's one of the things that I'm not really in favor with in terms of like the Republican Party. And one thing that I've also mentioned before is like you look at China and they have a vested interest in everybody that's in China. You look at America and it's not so much the same. And so we're handicapping ourselves because we want one group to do well, but other groups not to do well. But then those other groups are going to drag it down. But I do want to talk about, since you mentioned college, this whole Black men not going to college concept, because I wanted to talk about this for some time, and everybody pops online and they post their TikToks and they're like, "These are my thoughts around why black men aren't going to college." And I want to hear your take because you always have some good opinions on stuff.
Yeah, I mean, so it's like you in a neighborhood, right? So where just my immediate family, actually my immediate family, my grandfather did go to college. He was actually a Sigma. He was your frat, right? And so my dad went to college, didn't graduate. My mom was going to Temple University and graduated while I was in middle school, so I got to see it. But it was never a situation where I wasn't going to go to college. But then what happens is, if you live in neighborhoods where not many people go to college, and then the people that do go to college, and when they come home, they in the same struggle as everybody else. Like, see, I told you don't go to college. Now you in the same situation as me, and you got debt, and you got student loans, and you got whatever. But a lot of times, because those got them to graduate. But when the people do graduate, like I said, it's really, hard to get a job. I'm not an entrepreneur right now by choice. When I graduated, I wanted to get a job. In college. I was a party promoter, and I had a distribution company, made a lot of money, and I had I was a party promoter, made decent money as a promoter. But when I graduated, I wanted to get a job. I mean, I went to HBCU in the South. Now, Time Warner Cable. If I stayed down there, there's some places where I could have got a job, but the same jobs I could have got with a high school degree. I'm sorry, a high school diploma. It wasn't like, you know, like North Carolina is a little bit different. Like between Raleigh and Charlotte, Black people really are doing well with graduate degrees. But in Philadelphia, no. You work for the city, you work for the post office, and if you're lucky, you could get in the pen or the hospital, Penn Hospital. That's really it.
Yeah.
It's just not. There's not a lot of. You don't really
And
see
what you're saying, and I think what's really funny about this speaks to like there's a lot of merged issues because this also goes to the 50-50, 100% debate where you have men who are at a disadvantage. Nobody is acknowledging that disadvantage. They're just expecting them to take care of all the bills. And then when we address this in a different conversation, we're talking about college, we can acknowledge the disadvantages. I think that's very interesting because I mean, that's a part of the reason why I started building my own business. I had a job, but it wasn't paying what I wanted it to pay. It wasn't paying what I thought college was supposed to pay. And so I was like, I got to hustle on the side to get what I thought college was going to get me. And then I had to go to law school to get what I thought college was going to get me. And so I think that is part of the problem. But I also think that like the way men are being raised is the reason why they're not going to college. The way women are being raised is the reason why they are going to college. And nobody will acknowledge that we're raising our sons differently than we're raising our daughters. We're raising our daughters in a way that leads them to college, and you're raising your son in a way that leads him to be fending for himself. And I think that when you have to fend for yourself, you don't really think you have the luxury of going to college. College is hard because I was broke for the majority of college. And if you're out there on your own without helping your parents, I did have help though. You don't have the luxury of going to college. But if you have somebody who's like, oh, here's a car, here's this, here's that, I'm like, okay, maybe I'll just go to college. And then I'll go to college again, and I'll get my master's. Then I'll go to college and get another master's. And so I think it's a cultural thing that's really causing it.
Mm-hmm. But college is expensive. It's not college ain't cheap. And then once again, what comes back to, we can talk about like governmental wise, like no country on earth has colleges that cost as much as the US.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have to spend $250,000 to go to college. Nowhere.
But part of that was because they made college more accessible. And so once they started making college more accessible, tuition just kept going up and up and up and up and up.
No, it's not that. Student loans did that. It's because of student loans.
That's what made college more accessible was the student loans.
Right. But then it's actually when, what was it? Was it Bush when they said that you can't even file bankruptcy and never student loans? I mean, they're like, oh, where can I file bankruptcy? And then just give you more and more and more. Like, but there's no limit and charges. So there was a Republican governor here in Pennsylvania. His name was Tom Corbett. And he, Temple and Penn State and all the other colleges wanted more money. And he refused to give him more money. He said, because all you're going to do is build rock walls with it. You're not going to you're going to buy amenities and not add to the quality of education. That's one thing I definitely agree with Tom Corbett on, but that's it. Like it's kind of an arms race right now. The university, one of the reasons why my sons are playing golf right now, I see how much money is in it, where the University of Alabama is spending $100 million on a new golf course. Right. There's another university down there. They're spending $110 million revamping their golf course. How does that help? How does that help add to the quality of the education? Right. How does $100 million is not going to add to the? It's going to help.
What you're saying is it's a contradiction.
It's like, no. So now your tuition is going up to pay for $100 million golf course. It's not that. But and so. Either way, it doesn't matter. Like there's other college should not cost $100,000 a year to go.
Yeah.
And then when you come out, make $40,000, $50,000, it just at that point becomes not worth it. So
Yeah.
personally, what I was thinking about, this is I'm gonna just kind of get my business a little bit. What I was thinking about
Hold on
doing.
1 second. We got to take one pause break so I can go check on the landscaper.
Oh yeah. Go ahead.
Sorry, y'all.
So good.
It's a busy Saturday morning. I still got to make
Yeah.
breakfast.
Yeah, no, yeah. Typically, I'll be headed out to the court. Like I said, a young one, he on punishment. So I told him today, he's Cinderella. He's Cinderella today. We cleaning up all day. You got to get busy. But no, just real quick. I was saying for myself, right? I want my kids to get a higher education, and I went to HBCU, and as long as my kids go to grad school, I think it's okay to go to HBCU undergrad, unless you're going to a top HBCU. If you're going to go to one of the lower tier HBCUs, then I don't know. But so I went to school in Durham, so I had the opportunity to Duke is right across town from us, so I was on Duke's campus a lot. UNC Chapel Hill is 9 miles away. I was on their campus a lot. Um, NC State is like 23 miles away. I was on their campus a lot, right? So I got a feel for a lot of different people. Whereas my college, like I said, HBCU, people from all walks of life. But one of my best friends, I was in school, his dad is a hog farmer. He went to the University of Penn, but he chose to raise hogs versus use his degree from Penn. And no, that was his
So
life.
I would say I think that college is still necessary, even if it makes you an entrepreneur, because it might make you a better entrepreneur. And I think that the college educated entrepreneurs are a little bit better, respectfully. My son's definitely going to college. I look at my college friends, man, and college was just the starting point for them. All of them are doing amazing things. I have friends that have doctorates, they've gone on to lead universities. I have friends who took their degree and now they're running things for like educational like school districts. And so like the degree was just the starting point. if you never have that degree, even for me, it's like I went to law school, took the bar, didn't pass the bar, started building my business. And then when things kind of slowed down in business, I fell back on the JD, got my license. If I didn't have that, then what would I be doing? I don't know what I'd be doing. And so I know, and I'm not even trying to convince the whole community. The community can do what they want to do. They're going to do what they want to do anyway. The community has a lot of opinions that I don't agree with, but I still got to train up a child, and I still got to be like, in this house, this is what we do. In this family, this is what we do. Whatever they talking about out there, they can talk about out there. But you, sir, are going to be college educated, and you're being groomed to be college educated from now. He's been being groomed since years before. Like, that's the focus. Because there's a lot of benefits that come from that, even if people don't acknowledge them, even if it's not as easy as other people's path. Like, it's not going to be as easy as other people's path, but it still is a lucrative path, and it still is a path that should be taken because you are where you are. You are as intelligent as you are because you went to college, you took that extra step. If you never did that, and then you also got a chance to get out of the hood. I saw a post and he was saying, like, man, college is good because it gets you out of the mentality of the hood. And so for me, like, I wasn't in the hood, but I was around people who were in the hood. And I was a minority because I didn't think like they thought. And when I went to college, I gained the confidence to think how I think, whether they accept it or not, to believe what I believe and have the viewpoints that I have. They could accept it, they could not accept it, but a lot of them are looking at like, man, that guy's killing, that guy's doing these things. But if I never took that step, I would have still been down there with whatever they're doing, wherever they are.
You gotta get away, but we see how valuable college is, but it's just it's becoming harder and harder to obtain. It just really is. It's becoming more difficult. It's becoming way too expensive. It's like if you want right now, right, one of the reasons, so Hatchet, one of the reasons why other countries are eating our lunch is because they just put a higher value on education, make it easier than we do. It's like, now, I don't know if they have it out there, but we have here in Philly, we have neighborhood schools, right? So neighborhood school is just a school that your neighborhood goes to. So if you got problems, you're going to meet at school, right? Everybody in the same social economic situation at the same school. And so you can get to, they have magnet schools. In order to get to a magnet school, you have to not only have the grades, but also win a lottery. Well, it's 100 applications per seat. And if you don't, then it doesn't matter how intelligent you are. You at the school with the people that didn't eat that morning, they got pistols and dope in their locker, right? They got problems at the school. Like, this is your friend group. This is who you with. And now, if you're not in the streets, say you're in a basketball team and you meet, listen, it's a true story. Just 2 years ago, a car full of 16-year-olds were murdered. Right? They went to a school called Boys Latin, smart school. One of the dudes was in a gang. The other gang came to get him, and they killed 4 people in a car, guilty by association. So it's like, yo, if you're smart, but you're in an environment, you're in a class with 33 other kids who don't care as much as you do. Like, we have to figure out how to educate everybody and change. The system is just bad, right? I don't think that dismantling the entire system, like getting rid of the Department of Education, is probably the answer. But we probably got to figure out, this is where equity comes in. Like, how do we figure out how to educate everybody, give them a fighting chance to help uplift the country? What good does it benefit to have a whole group of people that can't elevate or don't elevate? It does not help the country at all.
But the thing is, my opinion is it's not their responsibility, it's our responsibility.
Well, it's both.
Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Because every other community, that's how they approach it. They're not sitting back like, man, the government got to do something. The government got to put some money over here. The government need to create a department to elevate us.
Right, because they do, though. That's the thing, because they already do. Like, you can go. So. Yeah, what are you talking about? Finland, France, Germany, Portugal, China. Everybody has free college, free healthcare.
What I'm talking about is in America, there's certain groups, and that's how they approach it. In America, in Los Angeles, every community has their own private school. I didn't even know there was Jewish private schools until like very recently. And so it's like, why don't we have our own private schools? Why, when somebody's trying to create a private school, we steady hating on them instead of like trying to help them, instead of rallying behind it and realizing that that's what we need. And in terms of speaking about like your kid being in a certain environment, that's why I'm heavily pro private school. My son, we're looking at 2 private schools. We got an interview this week for one, and interview the following week for another, because I know that I don't want my son going to the school with somebody else who their kid didn't eat breakfast because their parents, whatever.
So I don't know where you live. So both my kids go to private schools. They go to 2 different ones. My youngest goes to the French school, and what I will say, the disadvantage is they'll be disconnected from the culture. Like, I don't know how it is. So here in Philly, it's not that bad because these schools are like 30% minority, or I'm like minority, but 30% non-white, right? And so it's not bad. But in North Carolina, I was going to move there, is only 10% non-white. Like, even the people of color with money don't send their kids to private school, but because maybe the history, but it's also some stuff. My son, his picture, he's the only black boy in his class. There's 2 other mixed race girls, but other than that, but their kids, they're not American. Most of the kids in his class, there's only 2 Americans. There's 1 Mexican family, right? There's a Spanish family. There's this family from Cameroon. So they're not really American, but still, I would like him to be around more black. He's the only, right? And
Yeah.
so now, what is that? He's 6. He just turned 6, right? Now, does his standard of beauty change? Being around all, and so
I agree with that statement. I agree with
it's a
that
give
statement,
and
and that's
take.
one thing that I'm concerned about as well. Because, like I said, we're looking at 2 different schools. One is more diverse, and the other is not diverse, and that concerns me because you got to have some people there that look like you that are advocating for you in leadership. Even the school that he's at now, like, he's one of the only there, but there's a black executive who kind of runs the show, and she's been looking out for him the whole time. She's been making sure that she communicates with us the whole time. And so it's like, I understand the importance of that, but I still do understand the importance of private school. And I think that's kind of the balance, is finding the private school that puts them in a good environment with kids who come from good families, but also not putting him in a position where he could potentially be labeled or set aside or overlooked. And so accomplishing that goal by kind of taking the hybrid approach.
So it's more resources, right? They do get more resources, and the part that you might be overlooking is that how are these kids raised, right? They're raised in their privileged, spoiled lifestyle, and
My son was
they
raised very spoiled.
they they they're going to have privileges that your son isn't going to
Absolutely.
have. And
Yeah.
so, but he might feel entitled in that same capacity. So that's something that you got to talk to him. And if you don't want him to get their habits. You don't want to get them, how they talk to people and their respect. So you really, access to wealth and everything is in relationships is cool, but the parents are also super important. I will say that. And so my son, my youngest, I really regret taking him out of school. I kind of regret taking him out of school that he was at. He was at like a blackety black school. Like, I'm talking about, they don't do American holidays. Like, it's run by Rastafarians. It is referral only, all black. My son, he played Haile Selassie, as every year instead of Halloween, they do the coronation of Haile Selassie when he was installed as as the king of Egypt. Like, I see blackety black, and it was a really small school, and they did it as a preschool, and then they do like a homeschool co-op there, and it goes up to, I think, like 3rd or 4th grade. I took them a little earlier, but the schools my kids go to academically cannot compete at all. Honestly, I think my son is regressing. This is one of the top schools in the city, but educationally, he's regressing now because he was this year, even though he was 5 to the other day. He would be in second grade this year, but he's in kindergarten now. So they were already doing double digit addition and subtraction at this other small all blackly black school. And now he's over here. The trade-off is he's learning French, which, when you learn different language, it opens up different brain pathways, and then it gives us opportunity. It opens up his opportunity to do commerce in other places and also have a different way of life. And so, looking at that, but otherwise, this other school was academically can't compete, but it was really a really small school, on that. So it's a lot, man. But I don't know, but any rate, just to kind of bring that back. I think education is important. Just to kind of bring it back to we gotta, as a country, we just really gotta figure out our identity. It's like, are we going to be a country? And so I think I shared this in my stories. You could take a look at it. And it was a psychology professor. I forget what university it was. And at the end of the year test, he said everybody was the day before the finals. And he said, well, listen, I know everybody's tired. And this is a huge university. Young lady, he said there was 250 people in this class, psychology class. And the professor said, well, listen, if we could get in a unanimous vote to not do the final, and everybody in the class will get a 95 on their final, right? They could not come to a unanimous vote, and they couldn't. He put on a board to check why, basically why or why not, and the overwhelming answer is because there were 20% of the class that did not want people, if they worked hard, they didn't want people that didn't work as hard as them to get 95, because they didn't deserve to get 95 because they were lazy, they didn't work hard. And that's what we really have in America. We have a situation where just because you don't deserve it, you can't have it, no matter how good it will be for me, no matter how good it will be for the country, right? That's the reason why we don't have student loan forgiveness. I pay my student loans off, or I didn't go to college. Why should I have to pay for your student loan debt? Or why should you get any student loan relief, right? It's like the only welfare this country is okay with is corporate welfare. We're not okay with individuals. We're okay with Tesla getting $50 billion, right? We're okay with $15 billion. We're okay with Facebook giving $50 billion. We're okay with all these other companies getting corporate welfare. But when it comes to individuals getting help, and then when you look at it, like I just saw yesterday in Arkansas, there was a line from midnight to 7 a.m. for people in Arkansas to get free dental care, because for some reason that state, they don't have dental insurance, right? And the reason why the image of welfare is a overweight black woman with 8 kids and no man. Like, that's the image of welfare. But overwhelmingly, the rural South, right, the Kentuckys, the Louisiana, like the white folks, they're taking way more of those welfare resources than anybody else. But because black folk gonna have it, or they gonna think black folk gonna get it, they are totally against it, totally going against what's best for them, because of handouts. So yeah, but this country, man, we just, and I get the experiment, and I get what it is, but ultimately, we gotta figure out our differences, and if we want to come together as a country, or are we not going to?
I think I feel like I hear what you're saying. I just think we got to do it for ourselves, man. I think we got to do it for ourselves because, like you said, when you're at the blackity black school, it was doing some really cool things, and I think that we'll be surprised that we could actually. And I think that's why one of the interesting things about that concept, and I was reading this book right now, he said we need to stop focusing on closing the wealth gap, and we need to build Black wealth. And so I think that when you say that, it's like we need to come together, we need to unite, we need to figure out a way for us to do it together. I'm like, nah, we just got to build our own, because when we build our own, we're gonna look up and gonna be so far ahead, and it won't even matter. They'll be trying to close our gap, and we've shown it time and time again. Like you just said, the school that your son was going to was way better than the other schools. And if you look at other immigrant groups, they're doing a lot better than white folks. And so it's like they're not the standard. They are the current kind of gatekeepers if you want to get to their standard. But if you're like, nah, I'm gonna take my own path, I'm gonna create my own programs, I'm gonna do my own mentoring, I'm gonna do my own after school programs, I'm gonna do my own sports league, you'll look up, will be so far ahead of them, it's not even funny. And so like that's always been my position. And that's kind of why I kind of lean to the right, is because I don't like, even I gave this example most recently with the Carmelo Anthony situation. If this would have been under Biden, what they would have been doing was talking to Biden. Since it was under Biden, what they did, they raised like $750,000. And that's not the first time that's happened. It happened when they're raising money for the guy who they thought was going to get an interview at McDonald's. And so, like, I want us to be in a position where we can only rely on ourselves, because in reality, all we can do is rely on ourselves. Whether it's a Democrat in office or a Republican in office, at the end of the day, we can only rely on ourselves. The problem is they trick us into wasting 4 years or 8 years thinking they're going to do something for us. And that's what it would have happened if Kamala got in office. We would have been sitting around and she would have been like, well, I can't do nothing. I can't do nothing. But thanks for getting me here to the best job I've ever had.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Right.
I had to take it back like I was doing stand-up comedy. Take it back to the punchline.
But the thing I will honestly admit. So I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna say this, right? I voted in every election since I was 18. And this is the first election where I was going to abstain. Honestly, I was about to abstain because at this election, Asians doing themselves on schoolhouse with banks. A lot of poor Asians. Don't get it wrong, man. There's a lot of poor Asians, especially here in Philly. Asians in gangs. What are you talking about? It's Asian Crips. It's Asian Crips out there. So yeah, so we're not gonna act like Asians are all good. It ain't that. But
statistically they are doing a lot better than like
even, I mean, like even right now, our tech company, all of our tech companies are ran by Indians. All of them. Name a tech company that doesn't have Indian
crazy work, man. Crazy work. I don't know how that happened.
Every last tech company, right? So no, I agree. Got to do it ourselves, but the thing is, you got people like Wallow going viral talking about he don't support black businesses, and I'm like, yeah, you're right. Black businesses don't support them. Like what?
Hold on, I don't think that's what they were saying. I think what he was saying is you can't build a business strictly on the idea of it's a black business, therefore support. Build a good business that happens to be black.
Yeah, I support. No, I agree with that. But depending
I think it's a wise statement because
let me ask you this. Have you heard people say I'm not going to support another black business before? Or I went to this black business?
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever heard anybody say I'm not going to them Koreans because my order got messed up? Have you ever said anybody I'm not going to them Jews? Have you ever heard anybody say I'm not going to Chinese people? They only criticize black businesses.
Yeah.
Every time. If a black business do you wrong, like if I get done wrong, that business did me wrong. It wasn't a black business. That business is a bad business.
But that's a cultural failing, in my opinion. I've been, if you look at my tweets from years ago, I was like, support that black business. I don't care if it's a good business, bad business, whatever. But I think that those two statements can be true. I think that we can support our own, and I think that you also shouldn't just only exist upon the basis of you just being a black business. Still create a good product, create a quality product, because your community deserves it. You should be giving them a good product for their good money. You shouldn't be expecting good money for a not so good product. And so I think it's a call to black business owners to continually do better. But also, I think as a community, we should be able to cut our community some slack, because we realize that we're starting from behind. A lot of people don't have resources. That's honestly, I've been wanting to say this. That's kind of why I hate the whole coming after the course culture so hard, because courses allow black folks to create products at scale with no resources. It allowed somebody with some knowledge they gained to create a product, sell that product, and scale that product instead of having to get VC funding, instead of having to get a bank loan and credit card debt. You could literally scale something. I think that people hated on it because they saw the success that came from it because it was infinitely scalable. And that's another cultural failing where we see somebody successful and the first thing we do is say it must be a scam because black folks can't do that. Black folks supposed to be struggling. Black folks ain't supposed to have nothing. Now this person got something. It must be something wrong he's doing. And so I see a lot of people who are coming at that, and it was kind of like frustrating to see. And I wasn't able to really articulate why it didn't make sense to me. But I think that like black folks got to support black folks. Like all those statements are true. You got to put out a good product, and black folks got to support black folks. It shouldn't be either or. It shouldn't be I'm not supporting you because you're black and you don't have a good product. It's like, man, if I continue to invest in you, are you going to continue to improve that product? More than likely. Because if we look at, I mean, where Tyler Perry started, like his production quality has improved. Maybe the story quality is not the best, but his production quality has greatly improved. He's created a whole bunch of jobs. He's owning a bunch of real estate, doing a bunch of really cool stuff. But when he first started out, it was people saying his plays were bad and his production was cheap and it was bootleg.
Right, and he had to scale up. But I would think, but ultimately, there's nobody that supports black business like a black woman. That's one. But when you have the problem is we need more positive stories, right? Because Jay Morrison's story went viral, but Chris Senegal's doesn't.
Yeah.
I'm saying, and so it's always a negative. Chris was able to return money to his investors and do good business and do good crowdfunding.
I'm gonna get Chris on the show again. Me and Chris are boys.
Yeah, listen, I mean, Chris is solid, right? He's able, like I said, raise capital.
But whose responsibility is it to make his story go viral? Our responsibility. We need to be sharing his success. We need to be talking about his success. We can't be waiting on the media to pick it up. We are the media. We are the people.
Listen, I agree. In fact, I'll get on them. I might post about it. I think he got something coming up, man. But as far as the course culture, I mean, like one thing, like I'm never gonna stop giving you your flowers. Actually, you got me. I see you 3 times already, probably. Like you got me even confident enough to buy your course because if your course wasn't affordable, I would have thought courses were a scam. But because I got a lot out of your course for the value that it was, that allowed me to make some money and go continue to buy some more courses to the point where I created a course after that for real estate, and I made a bunch of money and I helped some people. But a lot of people say it's a scam when they don't execute or they don't even finish. They say it's a scam, right? And so, and don't be wrong, some people were scamming. Some of the courses were trash. Like a lot, some of them were really bad, and they sell a lifestyle more than anything else. And it's like, if you do this, then you can live my lifestyle. Like, no, you probably made 80,000 doing that business, but that 4 million you made was from the courses. So I can't live your lifestyle doing that business or doing whatever that thing was,
But I think if that's the case, then the comment shouldn't be courses in general are a scam. It should be courses that are marketed as a lifestyle when that's not the lifestyle that you can get from the business is a scam.
Yeah.
And that's a true statement. That is a valid statement. If you're telling me that I can get a Lambo by owning vending machines and you didn't own a Lambo through vending machines,
right.
I have a problem with that statement.
Right. No, 100%. Like, but listen, some of the marketing is sketchy. Right now, like I'm gonna give you a prime example. Right. I don't know how you feel. I'm gonna just say this. Right. Him 500, Marcus Barney. I would have never bought his course because I felt like I didn't like his marketing.
You have to call him out by name, man.
No. I'm gonna say this. Okay. I'm saying I never would have bought it because I didn't like his marketing. I felt like that it was kind of scammy. I didn't like his marketing at all. But then somebody that I respected was like, yo, I got that course and it was great. So, I paid $3,500 for his course. And I'm gonna say it was the best value I've gotten out of almost any course.
All right,
It
well, shout
was
out to that then.
no, no.
I
Listen,
thought this was going left, but
no, 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 no. Listen,
he's
it
a
was
solid
damn.
brother too.
No, no, no. What I'm saying is, it was damn. I'm not gonna lie, yo. It was damn. Like, Recession Proof is a damn good program. Really is damn good program. But the way that he was marketing, he is not somebody that I would have bought from. But my man said, who I a lot of respect for, is like, yo, listen, trust me, it's good. So I paid for it. It's damn good. Recession Proof is damn good program. I mean, I learned a lot in it. And the way he did it was brilliant. He brought in a lot of the experts, saying, a lot of the experts to teach you about a lot of other stuff. I didn't know anything about doing a webinar. I learned a lot of stuff about that in that program. It was a really good course. Recession Proof was probably one of the best things I paid for. But like I said, just the initial marketing of the blue and the cars, and that's not, no. But the referral got me to buy it, and it was damn good. I ain't gonna lie, it was really good. So I understand people say it's a scam, say it's a scam, saying like that, But like I said, we gotta, I do agree with do it ourselves, and we do have to. But we struggle with rugged individualism, and it's like, and we also, a lot of times we also support, we kind of contribute to our own demise in a way, right? And when I say, like, okay, you're going to boycott Target, well, where you going to get the products from, right? We don't have an alternative. Like, oh, to boycott Target is one thing, but how about we help Mr. Johnny get his business off the ground so we can support Mr. Johnny? Mr. Johnny's
I think
price.
one of my issues with the community is we specialize in destroying things and we struggle at building things. And so our response is always, let's just destroy some shit. Instead of like, man, what can we build to replace this so we don't need it anymore?
But nobody wants to pay that premium. Nobody wants to, because Mr. Johnny is never going to be able to compete with Target prices. Target will lose money to put Mr. Johnny out of business. But are we going to still?
Mr. Johnny could compete. There's some strategic ways that we can make this happen. I don't believe in no win situation.
No, what I'm saying is price wise, but the community, we have to be okay with paying 10-15% more to Mr. Johnny than having to go to, because Target and Walmart, they have lost leaders. They're going to lose money on these things that you need so you can buy something else. Mr. Johnny can afford to have a lost leader. So, but we have to be okay.
Do we know that he can't afford to have a lost leader?
Well,
if he's a smaller business, he has lower overhead, he has lower expenses. My theory is there's always a way, man. There's always
a way. But like I said, we have to be okay with paying 10-15% more. I mean, right now, the community has no problem paying for moissanite diamonds. No problem paying for lab grown diamonds. No problem, paying.
Why do you say that? Why do you say that?
What do you mean why I say that?
It's just funny that you say that, because I've been seeing some rings online that are rocks, and I was like, that is not a natural diamond, man.
No,
that's like 4 carats. That's $100,000 stone.
Right. No, all these diamonds are lab grown because they can pass the diamond tester because they are diamonds. They're just lab grown. Yeah. But so now we see online all these diamonds being sold. Well, Nipsey Hussle been told you to stop buying diamonds. If you do anything, buy gold. But you're out here buying diamonds. That's the stupidest thing you could ever do. Buy a diamond. It has no value. It has zero value. But you're buying diamonds. But they're all moissanite. They're all lab grown. We know that. But they have no problem paying this. Or I paid 10 to 15K for this. It's fake. If they go back, so I don't want to harp on this point, but they buy these diamonds or this jewelry or whatever, even if it's real, they're buying it from people that exploit the miners in the Congo to get it here. And then you really supporting your oppressor in a way. I mean, I really feel that way. And I think that we are really disconnected, and we have the rugged individualism, and we don't have the sense of community at all. If as soon as somebody sticks their head up to be like, a little bit over the crop, be a leader, like we beat them back down. And I think that J. Edgar Hoover was, listen, they assassinated the right leaders. They did a great job because they only had to kill a few. They killed the few, and nobody else wanted to stand up after that. And then the people that did stand up, we when Jesse Jackson, back in the 90s, when he was still Rainbow Coalition, when people found out that his son got a contract from John Deere after John Deere was like, they're racist, and they stopped messing with Jesse Jackson. Anybody heard from him since?
I think that the solution to that might be to not necessarily move with one leader, and not necessarily have one leader, but to instead have like our own kind of board. I know that's going to probably create some issues because then you're going to be attacking the board, but you're 100% right. Anytime somebody kind of raises up, you got to chop them down.
Got to chop them down. You got Farrakhan, right? Farrakhan, my cousin didn't go to the Million Man March because my cousin is Christian. I'm like, what does it got to do with the Million Man March? Farrakhan is not saying this is a NOI event. It's like it's always going to be something. And it's like the Black people will party together, but that's about it. We'll do cookout and we'll do a funeral. We'll come together for that. But nothing else.
Before we wrap this up, because I got to make breakfast.
Oh yeah.
What are some ways that you're finding success investing in this current market, and what are some tips you have for people to do the same?
Okay, good. So I think right now you have to really be patient. Like know the area you buying. Don't just buy anything. Understand before you put an offer in. Think about the majority. Your lumber is if you're in the West Coast, especially, or the North, your lumber is probably going to come from Canada. So think about how much that lumber is going to cost you. Your toilets, your faucet, your vanities, all that stuff is going to come from China. Your sheetrock is going to come from Mexico. And so, understand how much the new material prices are going to cost you before you going in. And just know that it's going to be more expensive, and you're not going to probably be able to get the rent that you want. And, interest rates are kind of stable. Oh, I thought we was out of here. Here this guy.
We are out of here, and then Dre popped in.
I thought we was out of here.
We are out of here. Dre, I added you. I don't got time today, man.
Where you going?
I got to make breakfast.
Oh.
Yeah.
Coach, what up?
What's good, man? How you feeling, man?
Feeling good. Good to see you, man.
Hey, Charles. Speaking of scam courses,
and why do so many people correlate education with a scam, but not entertainment?
That's a good one.
And why do so many people correlate an individual selling education, but not an institution selling education?
Yeah, I mean, they look at it. I mean, so I think that
I think it's just haters. I think it's really
haters. A lot of haters. A lot of haters. Like,
honestly, why not books? There's something about a course, a program, a training that bothers some people, but not even books.
Not even books. But nobody, who's buying a book, man?
But just in general, people generally don't call books scams, but they call it educational product information workshop a scam. There's something to that format that triggers some people. And I've always wondered what it is, because like you go to concerts, you go to college, you buy books, you go to day parties, but this here is the problem. And I've always wondered what it is. But great combo. I ain't gonna hold you guys. Maybe we can talk about this next time, Charles. Why this is this and that's that. Out of house, y'all later.
All right, good seeing you, man.
I can see you.
You want to take us out?
Yeah, no. Listen, I will take us out. One last thing I will say is that we should probably be paying attention to what's going on the continent. There's a lot of incredible things happening right now in Ghana, Burkina Faso, Niger, and Bali. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
Mali.
I was gonna ask you about that because you said that Ghana's the new Atlanta.
Ghana. That's on the visiting side. I'll say that because everybody go to, it's like Dubai, like Miami. Everybody go to Miami, but people were going to Atlanta. They now going to Ghana. But when you think about how those countries are taking over their resources, they were underdeveloped for all of these years, but now they're the fastest growing economies in the world because they kicked France out. So that says a lot about what's been going on. And I can have another hour and a half conversation about West Africa, but I think we have to, as a whole, Black people, just get back connected, And I honestly, I'm okay with. I personally think that we really do need more people in both parties if you want to be, but just think about togetherness, guys, and don't let politics or religion or social economics like that stuff cannot keep. If we let that keep us apart, then we're never going to be able to get ahead. We really need each other. We need each other's point of view. We need each other's life experience. Like, we just need each other. And let's keep the conversations productive. And as long as they're productive, we can try to see things each way, and maybe we will be able to come together more.
100%. I appreciate you for tapping in. It's been a long
Yeah,
hour and 45, but it didn't feel like it. We took a few breaks,
good.
but
yeah, no.
Where can they find you? Where can they follow
thanks
you?
For having me. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, Real Estate Coach Carter on Instagram. Make sure you check him out. Make sure you check out what he has going on. He has a unique point of view, and he's always willing to share it, no matter if it's going to ruffle some feathers. So I appreciate you, brother. We're going to head out of here. Let me just hit my outro. Where my outro go?